Greetings everybody. My name is Enveri Sufi. I work in the Institute for Organic Agriculture in Albania. I am expert on plant protection and organic agriculture. The title of presentation for today is Organic Grape Production. It's the first part because about organic grape production we will have another presentation too. According to Eurostat statistics 2017, the total vineyard in world level was 7.5 million hectares. More than 103,000 hectares, or 5.7% of total grape area, is managing in organic way. In Europe, 340,000 hectares are organic, or 8.7% of total grape cultivation. In the world level, the 5 countries with biggest vineyard are Spain, China, France, Italy, and Turkey. In the first place is Spain, with more than 100,000 hectares, and the second place is France, 78,000 hectares. Almost 90% of world's organic grape is in Europe. The 5 countries with biggest surface with grape in 1,000 hectares are Spain 969, China 875, France 793, Italy 705, and Turkey 449. In the total of grape production, according to the destination, is divided so: for wine 57%, for table 36%, and dry grape 7%. In this graph, with data from FIBL and IFOAM, the surface of organic grape from 2004 to 2017, as you see in the graph, the surface is increased more than four times. Now we will speak about what are the principles of grape organic production. Grape organic production has as a basis general principles for organic agriculture in general. Majority of principles are the same as conventional vineyards, but some elements are different. Organic grape need more care, more attention than conventional grape production. If the producer has decided to set up a new vineyard, and a producer should to convert an old vineyard from conventional to bio grape, need to take into account some conditions. The first, selection of cultivation place. To avoid the planting in narrow valleys without air current, because the dew stays on the leaves for many hours. In such places, diseases have favorable conditions. To avoid the planting near the rivers, because in such places has high air humidity. In such places, the diseases have favorable conditions too. To avoid the planting of grape seedlings under the shadow of the trees, under the shadow of the hills, or under the shadow of the mountains. Selection of the soil. Before the planting a new vineyard, it is indispensable soil analysis for pH, for soil fertility, soil salinization, etc. It is indispensable to plant the seedlings with proper rootstocks. Certain rootstocks have specific requirements for soil and pH level, calcium content, structure and texture of the soil, etc. In every case, it is needed to avoiding the planting of seedlings without grafting above American grape, not direct from European vine. It is very dangerous because if we plant the seedlings from European grape without grafting, has potential possibility for Phylloxera vitifolia infection, a very dangerous root loss of grape. Grape, as majority of agricultural plants, prefer the fertile soil, a deep horizon of the soil, and dry. Hills or fields planted with vine need to be with normal water content because in moisture soils plants have difficulty for normal development and is a possibility for soil-borne diseases. Soil-borne diseases in such conditions are a potential. 3. Selection of great vine cultivars. There are many resistant or tolerant wine cultivars to main diseases or as downy mildew and powdery mildew. Producers, before the plantings, need to know the feature of grape cultivars. Are they sensible? Are they resistant or tolerant cultivars to main key diseases? 4. Selection of vineyard blocks without risk from neighbors' parcels. Need to avoid the influence of conventional practices from neighbors' vineyards or another crops. Avoiding of spraying drops from conventional insecticides or fungicides. Influence on conventional fertilizer. To avoid the water of irrigation from sources with pesticide, fertilizer residue. To be away from pollution of industry or every urban pollution possibilities. That are some elements of risk analysis before to select a farm to convert from conventional or biogrape. Now, agriculture practices in organic vineyard. 1. Soil and plant nutrition. It is clear that in organic grape production are not allowed the conventional inputs as plant protection products, fertilizer, etc. As a source of nutrients elements are organic manure, compost, green manure, organic matter from mulching, industrial organic fertilizer allowed in organic agriculture. We see here organic manure in vineyard. In another picture, we are in a vineyard. We have two parcels, organic manure in organic vineyard. Source of nutrients are green manure with different crops. In this case, we see the trifolium and Vicia faba. Vicia faba used for green manure in vineyard. During the flowering time, the vicia is better to overturn together to mix with soil and to overturn in 20 centimeters deep. In flowering time of the vicia is the maximum of nitrogen fixation in the soil. Here is a demonstration day for green manure in vineyard with vicia, especially in the hills and in the slopes. The discussion about the mechanism of fixation of nitrogen from legume plants continue because many farmers has no idea about this kind of mechanism, and the experts and grape producer discussed about the value of legume plants as a green manure. In the picture we see the different species that are used as a green manure in vineyard. Here we see the different species. Between the rows we see the species with different colors. This kind of biodiversity within the vineyard play an important role for beneficial insects and pollinator. This is a very good habitat for such kind of beneficial insects. Green manure helps so much for avoiding the erosion in the soil in the slow places, in the hills, in the such kind of places. uh, Green manure play a very important role to avoiding the erosion too, because this is very important for because majority of the grapes vineyards are in slope places, in the hills. Here we see the compost preparation for using in vineyard. A simple method for composting for compost preparation within the vineyards. Every farmer can use these simple methods and to increase the sources for organic matter for vineyards. The mulching with different organic matter is a sources for nutrients in the grape. In this case, I use some piece of the cutting from rest of a cutting, and another biomass is used in another picture. The mulching, as we know, has many functional. The first, bring in the soil organic matter. The second, avoid or reduce very much the weeds. The third, reduce the erosion of the soil. Create a very good condition for microorganisms and for beneficial insects or microflora on the soil. It's a very simple method, but it's very useful in vineyards. As we know, very important in organic grape production is plant protection. In vineyard, there are present many insect pests and diseases, but only some of them are with economic importance. From diseases with economic importance are powdery mildew Uncinula necator, downy mildew Plasmopara viticola, gray mold Botrytis cinerea. From insect pest, the key insect pest is grape moth Lobesia botrana. What is a key diseases or a key insect pest? A key pest or key diseases are the diseases and pests that are present almost every year, more or less with the same intensity, has economic importance, has difficulty for monitoring and control, and need time and knowledge, has high cost for control, has high cost for environment, because the key insect diseases need many treatments within the seasons. And if we make many treatments, of course, we will have some negative impact in environment too. In order to have the success in plant protection in vineyard, it's important to know the biological cycle for each parasite. In this case, we have biological cycle for powdery mildew, Uncinulla necator. This disease overwintering is Cleistothecia that are produced on the leaves, shoots, and berries on the late summer in the autumn. The Cleistothecia have inside the ascus. Inside the ascus has the ascospore. Ascospores are the first organ that make the first infection early in spring in the grape. After ascospores are climbed inside the tissue of the plants, the micelle is developed. After incubation time, upper side of the leaves are appear some white spots that are conidia and in layer forms. Conidia are the organs they make the new infection from plants to plants, from leaves to leaves, and from conidia to conidia, from conidia to conidia. Within the season, the disease has developed many generations. At the end of the season, in the autumn, again the mycelium has transformed, has created the winter organs are Cleistothecium. Majority of the cases Cleistothecium are localized around the dormant buds. This is the weak point for this kind of reserve. It's important to know this fact because just the beginning of the opening of the buds, just the first leaves are visible, begin the infection. This is a biological cycle of powdery mildew. We repeat again the life cycle of Uncinulla necator in order to be more clear all the steps of the diseases. Powdery mildew spend the winter as the organs called Cleistothecium that are fixed in the shoots, leaves, and the buds issues. Inside the Cleistothecium are produced the ascus. Inside the ascus are produced the ascospores. Ascospores cause the first infection in the new leaves, just in opening of the buds, and new leaves are visible. After germination of ascospores, the mycelium is developed inside the plant tissues. At the end of incubation time, on the surface of plant organs, as leaves, shoots, and berries, appear the white color conidia in the white layer form. From conidia to conidia, disease develops some generation within the season. In the late autumn, on the leaves and the buds are created again the Cleistothecium, that are winter organs of the diseases. The Cleistothecia will be the source of infection for next spring. Here we see some symptoms of powdery mildew Uncinulla necator on the different organs of the grape. In the first picture we see the layer of spores, white spores, conidia, on the surface before the flowering time. Next picture we see the heavy infection on the new berries and the infection, the big berries, and we see a very heavy infection on the leaves. In such kind of infection, the harvesting is destroyed very much. Another key diseases in the vineyard is downy mildew, Plasmopara viticola. In the first picture we see the spots, so-called oil spots. In this case, the incubation time is continuum. In next picture, after incubation time is finished, on the underside of the leaves we see a layer of the spores, the white color. Next picture we see the heavy infection or small berries. Next picture, the cluster. The berries are destroyed 100%. Another picture we have the cluster are partly destroyed. Next picture we have infection during before the harvesting time or in the coloring time. This kind of disease is very dangerous because it's developed very fast, and if you don't take the control measure before, the preventive control measure is very difficult. This kind of diseases is very difficult to stop, especially in the beginning of vegetation. We repeat again some important moments from these diseases. Plasmopara viticola is very dangerous disease on the grape. If we underestimate it, production damage could be until 80%. Disease is appear later than powdery mildew. Plasmopara first infection need 10 grade Celsius, 10 centimeter long of the shoots, and at least 10 millimeter of rainfall in the drop form. Pressure of raindrops open the winter organs that are called oospore. Plasmopara viticola wintering is oospore stage. In the spring, under the pressure of raindrops, oospores are opened. Inside the oospores are zoospore. Zoospore possess flagellata. Flagellata help the zoospore to swim in the water on the plant surfaces to reach the stomata and green organs of the grape. Just as zoospores are inside the plant tissues and have emerged, germinate, the infection has happened. Incubation time continues from 4 to 10 days according to the temperature and humidity. During the incubation period, in upper side of the leaves are appeared so-called oil-color spots. This is a sign that incubation time is going to the end. After 2 or 3 days, according to the temperature, mycelium is fully developed. At the end of incubation time, could see on the underside of the leaves a sporangium and conidia. The spores are in white color. The spots are full with conidia that now are ready to cause the new infection in another organs of the plants or in another plants. Conidia is distributed by wind or another tools of the transport. In this picture we see the development cycle of downy mildew Plasmopara viticola. At the end of the seasons, on the leaves on the ground, mycelium has differentiated two organs, oogonia and antheridium. In this case is created the sexual form of the diseases, and after this process is created the oospore. This is overwintering organ from Plasmopara viticola. In the spring, under the pressure of raindrops, those spores has produced a sporangum. Inside the sporangum is full with zoospores. Zoospores has flagelia. With the help of flagelia, the zoospores swim to reach the stomata of the plants. After the germination is produced a mycelium. After incubation time of the mycelium, an underside of the leaves are produced the conidia. Conidia are the organs that make the new infection during the spring and summer. From conidia to conidia, from conidia to conidia, the disease developed many generations within the years. At the end of the season, in the autumn, again are produced the oospores that are overwintering organs from Plasmopara viticola. In order to fix better this kind of cycle, I prefer to describe again in order to fix the biology of the diseases. Again, oospores are the winter organs. In the spring, under the pressure of raindrops, oospores are open. From the oospores go out the zoospores that has the flagella, which help them to swim on the rain or the dew drops to reach the leaves and penetrate to stomata of the leaves. Infection now has happened. After infection and incubation time of diseases is finished, upper side of the leaves are appeared some so-called oil spots. After 2 or 3 days, according to the temperature and humidity, the incubation time is finished, and underside of the leaves are appeared the white spots that are the layer of spring conidia. From conidia to conidia, within the season are developed many generations. At the end of the season in autumn, November, December, mycelium differentiate the ogonia and antherid. After this kind of copulation, are produced the overwinter spore. In this case, are called the oospores. Oospores are source of infection from next spring. Control measure to powdery and downy mildew. Control measure begin with powdery mildew. This disease developed in low temperature. Mycel is activated just in bud burst, when the first leaves are appeared, when the first leaves are visible. For that reason, the early treatments are very effective. One treatment every week stops the first infection. If the first and two treatments are made late, it is difficult to stop the infection during the spring and the summer. 2 to 3 treatments, one after another, with sulfur-based fungicide, is the first step for success for all the season. Many grape producers underestimate this moment, the early treatments. When are created the conditions for downy mildew treatments, are combined with fungicide sulfur bases plus fungicide with copper bases against downy mildew. Treatments should be repeated every week. That is so because the copper and sulfur fungicide has a protection force for 1 week. If within a week has a raining days with more 50-20 millimeters, the treatment should be repeated because the fungicide layer is washed. At the same time, the shoots are grown and new vegetation is without covering with spraying liquid. The new vegetation, free from fungicide, has possibility for new infection. The new vegetation is exposed to new infection. For that reason, in the first vegetation period, need the treatments to be one treatment per week. What are positive and negative aspects of sulfur and copper-based fungicide? As a positive feature of sulfur and copper-based fungicides could mention have not negative effect to beneficial insects. Copper-based fungicides have effect to bacterial diseases too. Copper is used from the plants as microelement too. Sulfur-based fungicides have effect to spider mite too. Have a limited negative effect in environment. Could be stay many years in the store without reduction of anti-fungus effects. Diseases don't win the resistance to them. The prices are cheaper in comparison with conventional fungicides. As a negative feature of sulfur and copper-based fungicide, we could mention have a short-time effect to fungus. For example, half number of the days in comparison with many conventional fungicides. Have only contact effect, not systemic effect. As a contact fungicide that they have, need very high spraying quality, very fine drops of spraying. Copper-based fungicides will be not with long future because copper residue on the soil cause the toxicity to microorganisms, to soil and the groundwater. For that reason, BioGrape standard has allowed a limited quantity of copper per season. This is from 4 kg to 6 kg according to the countries. Active ingredient copper per year. In BioGrape are allowed also the kaolin is a fine dust. We see here vineyard treated with kaolin or surrounded water-powered fine dust. And we see here a white film layer on the surface of the leaves. Kaolin or surrounded water-powered is used 5 kg in 100 liters of water. The liquid creates a film on the surface of the green part of the plants. When it's used surrounded, WP needs a pump with high pressure. Before the harvesting, it would be better to avoid the using of kaolin or surrounded WP. Biological control to grape diseases. Some promising results are reported to biological control of powdery and downy mildew and botrytis too. One mite of Tudedia family consumes the microorganism. This mite is called Orthotudens lambi. This mite has reduced the infection of grape from powdery mildew and downy mildew. This source is from authors Andrew and Norton and Robert Seam. Another example of biological control is extract from Melsana, a fermentation product. Extract from green alga, Laminaria digitata, has protective effect to Plasmapara viticola and Botrytis cinerea too. This extract, according to the authors mentioned above, has reduced the Plasmapara viticola and Botrytis cinerea in a level 50 to 75%. Such kind of example we find a lot in literature. In positive list, where are listed the plant protection products allowed in organic agriculture, could find many products that the producer could use as a biological products in vineyards. Here we see a very modern pump, a very high quality in the grape. The spraying quality play an important role in the a very strong point in plant protection in organic agriculture in vineyard in the grape are the resistant cultivars to main diseases as Plasmopara viticola and Uncinula necator. This kind of resistant cultivars are a good solution in organic grape production. In Germany, France, Switzerland, Spain, and other countries, there are a big number of nurseries that produce resistant cultivars to main diseases. In organic, the conventional vineyards, more and more vineyards are from resistant grape cultivars. Some picture with resistant cultivars to main diseases we could see in following slides. Some picture from Albania. Grape-resistant cultivars to powdery mildew and downy mildew. We see here a very good performance from such cultivars. Here are made 3 or 4 maximum chemical treatments with copper or sulfur and not more. And as you see, the performance of the grape is very well. Here you see the grape cultivars, resistant cultivars with a black color. Here we see a picture from Albania, grape-resistant cultivars to powdery mildew and downy mildew. As we see, a very good performance in this cultivar. In this cultivar are used very limited treatments with copper and sulfur during the seasons. Another resistant cultivar with good performance. This is the picture made just beginning of the harvesting time. Here we see the grape resistant cultivars with white color, a very good content of sugar and very clean with very limited treatments with other resistant cultivars in one grape, one vineyard in Albania. As you see, a very good amount of cultivar, very clean leaves in some days before the harvesting. Here is a collection block with grape-resistant cultivars in Albania. These cultivars are tested both resistance to diseases and are tested from wine quality production. And many of them really have a good wine quality. Another from all the cultivars are described in such kind of system. As we see, leaves are clean from mildew and downy mildew, and the cluster and berries are clean from powdery mildew and downy mildew. This kind of system is developed for all the cultivars and is a basis to select them from production. This was the last slide for our presentation for today. Today we have spoken about grape organic production. We have spoken about selection of the place of cultivation, selection of cultivars, selection of the soil. We have spoken about plant protection problems. We have spoken about nutrients, about resistant cultivars as a strong point for organic agriculture, especially in grape production. This is the first time of our presentation for organic grape production, because I have planned another presentation, especially for insect pests with a focus grape moth Lobesia botrana. And in Lobesia botrana, we'll discuss about control the Lobesia botrana with biotechnique methods using the confusion methods with pheromones. Thank you very much for your attention, and goodbye to the next lesson.